Hey everyone, today we're talking The Bear, Season 5, the final season. Welcome to Screens in Focus. I'm Diana. Renee is here. Hi Renee, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing amazing. Oh my, and hungry after watching the season of The Bear, which we'll get into. All those things that they made, all those amazing dishes. But we are going to ask our question of the day, and that is, could you survive one shift at the Bear? Yes or no? Or something in between. I don't know. But you're going to think about that. And we're going to answer that later on. So we've been covering the Bear, Renee, the past seasons. And it's been a while since we saw the last season. So I would love to get your overall reaction on this. I do want to say one thing that immediately hit me, and I was reminded why I love The Bear, because it was so hilarious and I forgot how funny it was. And the food is amazing and the pace, the visual images, everything were so, it's like top notch watching this. What did you think? What was your overall impression on The Bear?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I just feel it's very comparable to season one. I kind of felt that it kind of lagged a little bit, 3 and 4 episodes or seasons 3 and 4. But season one was like prime TV. I mean, that was like amazing. And we were also excited, like, this is so new and this is so different, this kind of stuff. And so I just feel like even after that little bit of a lag, they've kind of redeemed themselves at this point. Like, let's, do this the right way and let's end this on a good note. And I think they did that.
I have chills as you're talking about that because so many people don't stick the landing when it comes to a finale. There are so many that people tear it apart. They're like, this sucked. What did you do to the show? But I feel like this one came back and really did a good job, especially with those last 2 episodes. I think the initial episodes had you heading in that direction, but I just thought it was so good. And I thought the pacing, like I said, was so, it's crazy to see it just jumping from one shot to another, from the characters and from the food and the rain and everything that was happening there. We're going to start like kind of where it started off, and then we'll get to the later episodes. How did you feel about where the story picked up after Carmy's decision?
I felt it was a little bit clunky, not the filming and not the whatever. Intentionally, I think that it felt a little clunky. Like everybody was like, they knew what they needed to do, but they weren't quite sure how to execute it yet. They were like, everyone's just like, okay, this has to, because there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
But I just felt that was intentional and how it was just supposed to feel kind of awkward almost.
I felt that too, especially I think with Sydney. It's like she didn't know how to take the reins from Carmy putting everything down. It was like, okay, now I'm stepping back. Now you step in. And she's like, what the heck? I've never done this before. And then we saw everything falling apart with people in the ceiling and that falling apart. And then the rain, the storm. But I love that because it made it feel so realistic. That happens, right? In cities all over the place where just it impacts everything else. And here you're trying to have service. Are people going to be able to get there? And what about the power in your restaurant? Are you going to get power? So much. It was so much chaos and it was crazy. Just how to deal with the food that you have because the food trucks aren't coming because the finances are in trouble or hard to deal with. There was just so much tension starting off in this. And there's already a tension in a food business like this. So it was just kind of like explosive chaos. So in saying that, I really would love to talk about the characters, where we saw them originally, where we see them now, where we see them through the season. And we'll start with Sydney because we just talked about how hesitant she was and unsure of her leadership and the pressure and all of that. So what did you think about Sydney in this season?
I really enjoyed watching her. I mean, I've always enjoyed her as a character. I just thought she's very interesting. And we got to see just that evolution of her. But I liked it. I felt like in this episode she was like a, like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. Like I just felt like she, towards the end. But I loved seeing her taking control, stepping into his shoes. And she's more suited to this job than he ever was. Like that position of head chef. Like he's a great cook and that stuff, but the leadership part, we always saw him kind of struggle in that. But I love how she sets the tone. She's calm, and her, if her as the head person in charge can keep her calm, then it can kind of help everybody else, keep some of their calm anyway. So I really just enjoyed watching how she transformed this season.
I thought you had said it well when you said it was clunky, because I think it was her, because again, she didn't know how to take the reins from him. Just her facial expressions and sort of almost her inner panic of like, am I doing this right? What do I do? How do I proceed with this? So I did love seeing her in this also, but I feel like Carmy kept pushing her too. It was like, you can do this. You're going to have to do this. I know you can do this. And I love that he did that for her. And she was able to find the leadership that she does have, that quality she does have. She just had to trust herself. And she was just able to make decisions. Like, once it was almost like he needed to step back in order for her to do that. Because I think if he, there was a moment that was so funny where he says something like, let's go. He yells it. And she's like, can you dial it back about 15, 15 down to 15? Because that's just too much. I mean, that just made me laugh. But yes, you're right. She had a calmer voice, much calmer. And you're right. That also helps other people, because if you look to your leader and you see how they're handling things, and then that helps you on how to move forward. But Richie, I do want to talk a little bit. Do you watch the Gary episode, right? We're going to kind of talk a tiny bit about that. I want to know what you thought about that Gary episode.
Well, I was confused initially because we turned it on and we thought that it was like the beginning of the show. And then I'm like, then it stopped. And I was like, what was this? And I didn't understand what did we just watch? And then I had to go look online and everything. But no, I thought, it was just another glimpse into Richie and why he is the way he, just what made him into Richie, because he's been difficult on, occasions. And, I've always liked the character because he's just fun and adds another element to the whole series and things. But yeah, so it was really interesting to see that little glimpse of, him with Mikey and everything.
When I saw that episode too, I was like you. I'm like, what is happening? I had to watch it again because I wasn't sure what I was watching. And the second time I was much more gripped because I think I had to probably go I don't know what happened, but something made me had to pay attention to what was happening. And when they get to the part where Mikey is spiraling and the things that he says to Richie, I was like dumbfounded, like how the words came out, but then it made sense to who Mikey was. I mean, we've seen Mikey in the previous seasons and we view him as this person that was well loved, but then how did he get to the state that he was at? So I feel like this helped us get there, also understanding their relationship and how it impacted Richie. It was hard to see the way Mikey treated Richie there because he told him, your daughter is better off like not knowing you. And I know that with Mikey, it was more his self-hatred.
Yeah.
And that was coming out, spewing out of his mouth. But Richie doesn't really, he's thinking, oh my God, I'm not worthy of having this child. This is what you think of me. I'm sure that was going through his mind. I mean, you're my best buddy and you're treating me like this. And, but I would imagine that Richie finally realized it was Mikey that was having the problems. That was his issue and it wasn't him. And it was basically out of his control. But in saying all that about Richie, I love that we see him at the end with his daughter and that he's throwing a party for her and he's being a good dad. And it shows that it wasn't true what Mikey said to him. And I also love seeing the growth because we've seen him change too. He was always yelling and being kind of mad and angry at certain things, but no, he's much more of a team player that we see him. And so I loved seeing Richie's growth through this episode. Okay, Carmy. Carmy hit me hard for so many reasons. I want to get your take on Carmy this season.
It was one of those things where, yeah, it was hard to watch knowing that, he's transitioning out, because that's who we've been watching and everything. But at the same time, I was glad that he figured that out, for himself, for the restaurant. He wants the restaurant to succeed. He realizes he's not the one to make that happen. I think it was good for him to be on one hand, it was good for him to be there for Sid, and on one hand, it was bad because, to try to work above the boss you used to work under, that has to be very difficult to have them eyeballing you, watching every move you're making. Yeah. But at the same time, his knowledge, his, expertise and things was always good to have as well. So it was, hard to watch all that. But I think it was, I don't know, they allowed him to step back and become, a little like introspective to himself, and how, he realized that he didn't treat the kitchen staff that well when he saw how she was patient with people, and she was, even though the building is literally falling down around.
I know.
There's no food. There's it's just everything that could go wrong in a restaurant's going wrong, and he's watching her handle it so well that he was able to think about things, and was it Richie that said, or someone said, I think it was Richie that said something to him about the way he interacts with people, and that he doesn't do a very good job of that, like talking to them and whatever. He's just yelling orders and this kind of stuff. And he really started to try to do that then too, towards, the later episodes. Then he was like trying to ask a question, like, what do you need, or whatever, like to really think about what the person's going through instead of just barking orders, doing all those things. So his whole thing was, yeah, it was hard to watch because we thought we knew what was going to happen, and but at the same time, I mean, the series is ending, so that helped a little, that you knew, like, okay, well, if he is leaving, well, the whole series is over anyway. So
I have a couple different thoughts on Carmy. First is what we saw and what I was personally thinking. For me, what I was personally feeling is when he said something about like falling out of love of what he was doing, his cooking. And when he said that, I didn't believe him, or I didn't want to believe him, because I've always felt like when you really have a passion, you love something, how do you disconnect yourself? That's your identity. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he was trying to figure out his identity. He's been through trauma with his family, with his brother, and so much more, I'm sure, and how he treats the kitchen. And so this whole show ended differently than I had originally wanted, because I wanted him to fall back in love with what he was doing, because that was his passion. That's what I wanted for him. That's what I want. I'm like, you've got to find your way back. And I wanted him to be the leader again. I wanted him to do that, but that's not where the story took us. And something about that I had to come to terms with in watching this, because it really emerges that Sydney is the leader in this kitchen, and she's the rightful person to do it. But I was kind of against it. Like, I didn't want that. I wanted Carmy to find himself again, something to trigger in him. And he did find himself again, which we'll get to at the end, but it was just different than what I had imagined. So I was struggling with that watching this. But in saying all that, I love that, was it his uncle that said about breaking perfection and control in that cycle? Yeah, I can't remember. I think it might have been Jimmy that told him that. And I think that was very helpful to him in stepping back away.
And kind of like what you were saying about your ideal of what you thought was going to happen, I was kind of similar, where I thought that one conversation, I can't remember if it was when he was talking to the architect lady, or I don't remember where it was, but he was talking about the love of cooking, and then he talked about the responsibility of being in charge and this and that. I was thinking that he was going to realize that by stepping down as head chef, he could fall back in love with cooking and then still cook. I was hoping that's where it was going, where he was going to
Yeah.
let Sid take over as that
Yeah.
and be but then he could focus on just cooking because
Yes.
that seemed to be
Yes.
what he did love. So
Yes.
that's what I was thinking was going to happen, that he would
Yeah.
second guess himself and be like,
Yeah.
oh, no, I want to continue to cook. But again, not what happened.
Well, do we know that didn't happen? Because I'm feeling like that kind of happened. Maybe
Yeah,
happened.
and maybe I felt like it was very up in the air, and I'm like, okay, I
Yes.
don't know, and
But
that's what I hoped
yes.
happened. But I
Yes.
felt like we didn't really get an answer, I guess. So then I
Yeah.
thought, well, maybe not. So
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that in just a moment too, because I do have
yeah.
I do want to explore that more, but I do want to touch upon Marcus and Tina. With Marcus, his grief over his mom, and then reaching out to his estranged father and having him come up. Come to the restaurant, and the pressure that he felt with that, and his relationship with Luca, and that big old blow up. Whoa, what? But that's what happens in relationships. And that's what happens because Luca didn't tell him what he was doing, and was kind of his buddy. And it was kind of like, what are you doing? So what did you think about Marcus in this season?
I just feel like he's just the sweet soul that's just had so many things come at him. It's so hard to watch him go through because he's quiet and you can tell he's just thinking and all these stuff. But I just, it was really tough to see him, kind of go through like all the emotions. He's, feeling his dad, his mom, work, everything else, then the stress on top of that. And then to have his father come in on this night, it's just, not that he knew that ahead of time, but you know what I mean? Like, it was like, oh my gosh, now I have to deal with this also. And the spoons, where are the spoons, And then we find out where the spoons are. But, I really enjoy, like with Luca, just how well this series has taken their like guest appearance roles and really made them something important.
Yeah.
There's so many of those that they're brief, these little, we don't see certain, like even like with Stevie, John Mulaney's character, we don't see him, but he's important and he does something, and so I really enjoyed Marcus and Luca and their romance, friendship, whatever they got going on there, and so I really enjoyed how, just watching Marcus this season and him going through all that. I didn't enjoy his pain, but I enjoyed just, the overall growth of his character and things.
Yeah. But he regains that focus and his stability. And I thought it was so cool when he went to his dad and he talks to him, and then he takes the candle, opens it, and pours out the caramel. I'm like, oh my gosh, how brilliant, how cool is that? It was interesting when they went outside though, and his dad goes to hug him, and he kind of stops him from hugging him. He's like, we've gone far enough. You came. we'll talk about it further because we still need to get there. But his relationship with Luca was something I didn't know I needed so bad. And I loved it so much. I loved their relationship. I loved how they worked alongside each other. The goodbye at the airport. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself with Marcus here, but I don't want to forget it. But just what Luca says about how no other kitchen has been like this, I just thought that was such a insight to how everybody else was feeling too. And then we have Tina, who is, long overdue recognition as CDC, fully stepping into authority and becoming the steady backbone of the kitchen. And her Brussels sprouts look like at the opening. That was the episode 1 of this season. We saw those Brussels sprouts. And to me, I don't know about to you, but to me, I wanted to eat them. They looked so damn good. I want to fry Brussels sprout leaves and have whatever sauce she had. I mean, for me, it was inspirational. Like, seriously, I want to do that because it looks so damn good. I don't know. What did you think about Tina?
Oh, I've always loved her character. I just always, she's just kind of, she's tough, but but she's very timid about her skills. I think like her personality is tough and she can handle things, but
Yeah.
then she just doesn't always have their confidence, I guess. And I felt like that she's finally realizing her capabilities, and that's something that everyone else has known. It just took her a little while to catch up. And so I did enjoy that. I loved it with her husband, and I didn't know that was her husband in real life too. I had read that.
Yes.
I was like, I didn't know
Yes.
that. I thought that's so cool. Maybe I did know and forgot, whatever.
Yeah.
But I loved it when she's like, "Do you think I can do this?" He's like, "Yes, yes, I do think you can." He's got her back all the time, and so I really enjoyed her story this season.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool. Yeah, because
Mhm.
she had gone through so much.
Mhm.
Well, they all have. They
Yeah.
all have. So it's so cool to see them come into their own, to
Mhm.
trust themselves, to recognize their worth, their value, their creativity. It's just been so fun to watch it. The show is written so well.
Mhm.
The performances are so good. The direction to get the performances that they have. Um, I had already mentioned the pacing and the sound design, but I just don't want to leave that out there without us talking about that, because even the rain sequences and how they would go outside and smoke or whatever they
Mhm.
would do it underneath the tarps. I mean, how fun this must have been to film this
Mhm.
series. All right, the ensemble cast. They are so important to all of this. Who else do you want to talk about? What do you want to bring up?
Well, Jimmy and his colorful language was a lot of fun. Like,
So
I
much
laughed so
fun.
many times. I'm like,
I did
"Oh, what
too.
did he just say?" It was outstanding. So, I thought he was just, he's just a good I felt like the money thing wasn't the biggest point. There was many other, very plot points that were a lot more important this season, but that was just him, and just watching him and them going to the county office and doing other, and
Yes.
just saying whatever came into his head. And
Yes.
so I really enjoyed him and his, adding that little bit of language for us.
Okay, I have chills again because every time you say something that just hit me or I thought the same thing, I love seeing Jimmy and Computer and Cheese, the
Yes, we
names of
were
these
so
people.
like this. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know where Cheese came from, actually. I just all of a sudden she was there for I'm like, what's happening? But anyway, yeah, them going down the county, I'm so glad you brought that up. That had me, I was dying but I was right there with him because every time somebody new would come up, they wouldn't know what the last person had said and they'd have to ask him again. And he was voicing what I would have
Mhm.
said because I was like, oh my God, can't take it anymore. We just want to know about those air rights.
Yeah.
Oh, the air rights must have been said 50
Oh,
billion
yes.
times. It was so funny. I loved that part. There were so many funny parts
Mhm.
in this. I didn't remember how funny it was. Little tiny things. Richie would say something underneath his breath. One time he says to Pete, "Go back to your station." Or go back to your
Yeah.
station. I don't know. It was just
Mm.
tiny little things that would just make me bust out laughing. Everybody was swearing too. Richie swears a
Oh,
lot in
a
this
lot.
too. So, and I'm like dying because it's hilarious to me. What did you think about Sugar and Donna and their storyline and the
Yeah, that was
baby?
really interesting because that took a lot of, faith on her part to allow her unhinged mother to care for her child,
Yeah,
and but she knew, like, in order to do her job, she couldn't bring the baby with her, and so she had to do what she had to do.
yeah,
So I just thought that showed a lot of growth on her part, that she was like, "Okay, I'm gonna trust this woman. I've got the baby monitor. I'm listening to everything they're
yeah,
saying."
yeah.
But, and it was sweet for her to hear her reading to the
Yes.
baby, and just things like that. So I thought that was a really neat, just a fun moment, because there's, a lot of children do have this trauma with their parents, and it's very hard to trust again.
Yeah.
And so just to see that little glimpse of that for them, I loved it. I thought that was really fun, storyline for those two.
Yeah, I love seeing it too. Yeah, when she was over listening to her mom read the book, I thought that was so heartfelt listening to her, and I think that was a turning point for her because, of course, she did have trauma in her life and growing up with her mother being unstable and everything else, so that it was hard for her to trust her. So it really was a big step. I just thought that was a really important moment, and then having Donna come to the restaurant and the time that she looks through Carmy's things and sees old pictures. And I loved how they showed the flashbacks of these important moments in Carmy's life, but that his mom is seeing that he went through. Also with Sugar and Pete, it was kind of nice to see Pete. He's actually, I didn't really remember him too much, but he was actually quite funny at moments too. And he's just kind of playing kind of a innocent character, but his moments were funny to me. They did make me laugh. He kind of didn't know his place. He was just kind of trying to roam around. So I appreciate seeing him. Okay, tell me what you think about Ibrahim because
Genius. And I love that. I mean, he had all day to feed. The window was closed. He didn't have any work to do. So he's like, now what do I do? I'm going to look for the spoon thief and I'm going to figure out how to save this restaurant. So I thought that was great that he took those on to himself. But
yeah,
I just love that he had the courage to bring it to them because that's difficult when you're an employee and you got this whole family in charge of this thing.
yeah.
Even though you've been there, you're part of the family, but you're not really part of it. And I just thought, it was so great of him to really think it out and write it all down and get it all out there. And I just love that Carmy was just like, yep, I love it. Do it. Great idea. So I loved it.
Well, it was so funny because he had practiced it so many times. And what cracked me up was when he said, don't give me those blue eyes.
Yeah,
He's like, Carmy, those blue eyes aren't going to do it to me. And he said it several times. So he practiced it and practiced it and practiced his speech. And then he didn't have to give a speech at all because Carmy's all fine. Good. That's a great idea. But he had practiced so hard.
He was dedicated to the idea.
He
so
was.
I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too. I thought it was awesome. The Fack brothers, they have been through this all the seasons, and they were making me laugh. Neil was hilarious. What'd you think about the Fack brothers?
Oh, just everything. I mean, falling through the ceilings and the pipes bursting on them. And I mean, it was just everything. They're like in the middle of it all. And they're just like, what the heck, but they're always a good comedic element to this series. They've always just been really good to, like, when things are getting tension or whatever they do, they come in with something, and so they're always a highlight.
They are. They just oh God, they bring that humor that's hilarious. Okay. So let's shift into the final night in the kitchen, which is episode 7 and 8. Everything starts locking in, communication improves, chaos becomes control, the kitchen finds its rhythm, even though they're still having some issues and they only have limited food. So did you feel that shift when everything clicked?
Yeah, it was just like everybody just kind of like found their footing and just kind of like, despite everything that they've had to deal with, they all just kind of found their groove and they started, making things happen. And it was so fun to see that because that's what you hope for, but you just, there was just so much going on. And one thing that I had forgot about earlier was when Richie was supposed to cancel some of the reservations. And they're all giving him all those kicks. He's like, okay, well, we'll see you at 8. Yep, we'll see you. And I thought, he's like, his heart just went out to all these people. He couldn't say no. And then here comes all these people late and everything. And he's just pulling card tables out and doing this. Let's put them on the patio or out back under the tarps or whatever. And I kind of had forgot about that earlier when we talked about him. But, just all of those things, everybody just found their groove and adapted to what they needed to adapt to, and just kind of, you definitely felt that, like you said, that click where it all kind of started to work out and go together.
Well, it's because everybody was finally, I guess, just trusting themselves. They had all evolved and it was working, like it was just clicking together. It just worked. And it was stressful because he had said yes to everybody, but they didn't have the tables and they didn't have the food. So I don't even know how they did it. But then he was sort of like the coach, like he'd come in and say, okay, we did this. Let's get ready for the next turn, or, the next reservation. I'm not up on my restaurant terms. I don't know them all, but yeah, he was sort of like, okay, we accomplished that. We did that. Here comes the next one. Yeah.
I guess overall, I just think that it was how they did the last 2 episodes. I just thought there was no way they could have improved them. I just feel like it was just exactly what it needed to be.
I know the writing, so good. I don't even know how they do that. There was a moment that I looked at and they showed like 4 faces in a matter of like 1.5 seconds. It felt like, right? It's like boom, 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 boom. But that conveyed what was happening. Like you understood, because they would just like, their eyes would move to the other person and it would be like, okay, here we go. We got this. We got this. Even Sugar was even in the kitchen with them doing things. They even had guests come in and fold napkins. Okay. Carmy's all, can you do this? And they're like, oh, and then one of the guests tells the other guest, okay, watch me and then fill in. I'm like, wait, who are these guys again? I had to go look it up to make sure that I knew. I'm like, these aren't regular people. Are they actually guests back here? And then just moving people around and putting out a new table and Fact Brothers coming with the, whatever it is, and them looking and timing when they're going to bring out the next place settings and all of that. I mean, it was crazy watching these last 2 episodes. It was bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. And then we thought Starman was there, Dearborn, and there was Tom Skilling, who's a retired meteorologist, really famous in Chicago, and he was there. And then we see Neil Fack. So funny, that story that he accidentally stumbles and they're all like worried. Richie and the others are like looking at him like, what's he doing? What's he doing? And they're like, not sure if he's going to pull it off. And he talks about the story and they ask about his tattoos and about how he fell out of the tree and he broke his arm and he had a cast and his true friends signed it and they're like, oh, who was it? And he starts naming everybody, Mikey and Carmy and Richie and everybody else and his brothers. And so I just thought it was the best story and they loved it. Of course, here we're still thinking that they are Starman.
Yeah.
Can you imagine it wasn't them at all? They were just some guests. And here they're getting this treatment, the wine, all of that. And we didn't even talk about how everybody was wondering if they should look for new jobs when this first started at the very beginning. It's like, wait, Carmy's leaving? Do we even have a job? I'm sorry I jumped all the way to the beginning, but it just reminded me. But it's like the communication replaces the chaos that we've been seeing and everyone trusts each other and they're working together. And then we see that moment with Carmy. What did you think about that when he has the lamb and it drops?
Fainted. I was like, that was the last serving. They don't have any meat. They've cut the protein down less than half, I think, at this point. And he drops that. And it was like, okay, what's going to happen? I mean, I couldn't believe it.
It's like Top Chef or any of those where like it's like you only have limited ingredients. You got to think of something like, what do you do? What do you do? Yeah. What happens now? How are you going to get out of this? And but I loved it because Richie's all, we got you. We got you. We got you. Because Carmy's panicking. And if this had been in Carmy's hands like usual, I don't even know what he would have done.
Yeah.
But Sydney says, do you trust me? And he says, yeah. And then that's when she tells Tina, fire up your Brussels sprouts. She's all, really? She's like, yeah. And then they all kick it into gear. Everybody else kicks it into gear to help out. And then she turns to Carmy and Carmy's all, do you trust me? Coke ribs. And she's all, no, can't do it. And he's all, do it. That's better than anything I've ever made.
Yeah.
And then she just kicks it into gear and puts it out there. And I'm like, oh my God, the tension in this kitchen is crazy. So after all of that, it's a success. They've done it all. The finale. they get that Michelin news, which I want to get your take on that in a minute. We see Carmy's interview, Richie's next steps, and everyone lands emotionally. So I kind of had two questions for you. I did want to know if you felt it was satisfying or bittersweet, but then I also want to know the Michelin news. So
when the Michelin news, it was funny because when he was looking at her and she said, "Did we get it?" And he shook his head. In my brain, I was like, "No, they got 2." I said that in my brain because I was
really?
like totally joking, like that could not happen.
Yeah,
And I was like, I can't believe that's what really happened.
I got chills again, just so you know.
Because I was just like I was kind of just being my sarcastic self,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was like, no, I thought that, yeah, it was so good. And just everybody, just she had to soak in that moment, and,
yeah,
he's still trying to process it. And yeah, so that was just such a highlight to the episode and everything, including all the other things that happens. Like we just had this extra little cherry on top, that we did find out because I didn't know if we were going to find out or anything at this
yeah,
point.
yeah,
Just leave it up to whatever it's like sometimes. And then whether I thought it was satisfying or bittersweet, it was kind of both. Because it's like
yeah,
when you have this series that you've enjoyed for 5 seasons now, and you're just like, oh, this is kind of sad, but at the same time, I just feel like they just did it in such a way that it just felt right to be the end of it, with everyone finding their footing and doing their things they want to do. And, we see little glimpses of maybe mended relationships. And we see, these little things that, we can just hope everything is happily ever after.
yeah. I would say the same, bittersweet and satisfying. I did want to revisit Carmy's monologue because that really hit me. Like I had tears in my eyes both times that I watched it. Um, it was just moving to me because I feel like Jeremy Allen White as Carmy was doing such a fantastic job in this role and conveying what he felt. And I felt like we were on the ride with him when he was talking. I thought that the person he was interviewing with, I thought she was a therapist for a minute. Because first I thought, where's he going into? And I thought, oh, he's going to go in for a job, but they didn't say that. And then as he was talking, I thought, oh no, she's a therapist because he's divulging so much. This is the funny part, is because it's such a heartfelt moment. He's pouring out his guts. She's listening. And then she turns and says, well, that really wasn't answering the question. And she goes to say who she is. And that's why it's so damn funny because he just divulged everything to her. And she is like not his therapist. She is interviewing him for an intern job. Anyway, I just thought the things that he said, how he was in survival mode. He wasn't making friends with anybody there, but that he had a realization that this was a team, this was a family, that these are people he did care about, and that it just hit him differently. And I think when he had that realization, I thought to myself, he's going to go back. He's going to go back. And we saw him in his chef uniform back in his office, and we saw him at the birthday party. I kept thinking, I think he went back, but then people online are like, no, he's working as an intern at the architecture. But I mean, how do we know that? How do we know that? So that's why earlier when you said you were hoping that he would go back, return as, and I don't see him returning as the leader because I really do think that he's handed the baton to Sydney and she's doing really good job with it. She knows how to run it. I don't know. Will he go back periodically sometime? I don't even know. Don't know how he could move away from being a chef unless this job somehow incorporates food. I thought he was going to be more of like a photographer or something because like taking pictures of the food or something.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know. So where do you really think he ends up?
Yeah, because I didn't understand. I thought I missed something with the architect. I'm like, was that something he talked about before? Because that just seemed to come out of nowhere. But so I don't know if I
Yeah.
missed something or if it did come out of nowhere.
I
I don't
think there
know.
was something that I had read, something
Mhm,
in one of the other scenes where architecture may have come up, but it wasn't
mhm,
anything that we saw reoccurring.
mhm. Yeah, so I was just very confused with that. But then, like you said, with the monologue, that's where I kind of felt like, oh, he's gonna go and we're gonna see him.
Yeah.
And then like you said, then what we saw was a little confusing. So you know, I'm not real sure. I hope he's cooking or something. But yeah, I'm very unsure because I didn't quite understand like where that architecture angle came from.
Yeah. I just feel like it'd be so hard to move away from these people you care about and the kitchen, unless he really did have some turn of event, and it's just killing me to know what that is. But then how do you go back to a, a place with a different role, I guess? I don't know how that would be.
Yeah, it would be tough, I think,
Yeah.
because you're used to being in charge and we already saw it was difficult to relinquish that. A couple times he tried to, kind of
Yeah.
talked over her, then realized, oh wait, I'm not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it would be difficult. So,
Yeah. Something I noticed on my second watch, and I didn't notice it on my first watch, is when he was on his phone, he was texting Mikey. Did you know that?
I did not because we tried to see and we paused it and
Yeah.
like two times and we still couldn't quite
Yeah.
figure out what that was. Okay.
It says Mikey, and their texts throughout time, and they all say undelivered, but he sent them. And they're very minimal. They're something about Claire Bear, and then he'd be like, well, the restaurant's name is, it was a name with a K. And I can't think of what he said now. The last text message that he sends at that moment says all good. So he's telling him all is good, which I thought, oh my gosh, you're still texting your brother, even though it's not really going anywhere. It's just that relationship you have with him, because that's where it started, right? He had to come back because his brother was gone and he needed to fill in and take over the reins of what was happening and how this whole journey started for him. So I thought that that was just a good way for emotional closure and the grief and acceptance of everything that has happened. So I just thought that that was such a good way to end it. And then we see Richie on the plane with Jess, and it was so nice to see them and her hand on his.
Yeah.
And then I had already talked about Marcus and Luca saying goodbye to each
Yeah.
other. And then you had talked about Sydney and the 2 stars, and knowing that it was 2 and not 1, that did not cross my mind. I just think that everyone ended on a great note. I thought it was a great finale. All right, we are going to get to our rapid fire, Renee. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to answer your first initial or gut reaction to it. Okay. What moment stressed you out the most while watching?
Carmy and that avoided phone call because I kept like, what is that? What is going on? Why is, he keep avoiding? I was like worried that it was something terrible and he knew that, like, I'm supposed to be getting a call or something. So I was really worried, but luckily that was good news. So it didn't have to be stressful, but that just kept driving me crazy.
That's a good one. I like that one. This is hard because there was several stressful moments for me. The whole service was
Mhm.
stressful about, like, are they going to be able to get those people out of the chairs on time? And like he's staring them down. I was like, how are we going to get them out of there? And then that whole lamb dish moment, and they didn't have any other food. So, and then Neil, like when they were worried because Neil's walking up, they're like, shit, no, what's he gonna say? Because that could have just totally blown it. So there was some stressful moments. So unfortunately, I have several, not just that one, but I like yours because yours is clear cut. All right, what made you laugh the hardest?
So when Neil, when he was talking to who he thought was the Michelin and what is he called? The Michelin inspector. And I forget what part he was saying, but he started just cussing. Like he brought something out for them to eat and said, and then he started going and he was just F-bombing and all these that he said about how good this was and all this. And I was just like crying, laughing at that because here's these two like people, these prominent people in Chicago and he's just, just saying his Neil stuff. And I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would say the Neil stuff was hilarious. And of course, again, it's when everybody's like cussing up a storm. And also with Jimmy and them at the county or wherever they're at. That just, I don't know why. I just thought it was so damn funny. So those moments just made me laugh. Okay. What dish had you fully wanting to pause and eat?
Oh, that's easy. That's Marcus's Sunday. I want that with that caramel sauce. That candle. I just thought that was so cool. And I was like, I need to taste that. I mean, there's most everything, like the lamb too. I love lamb. So I was like, oh no, I'll eat it, brush it off. But no, I just thought that caramel sauce thing was so cool.
That was very cool. The Brussels sprouts got me. I know it's just Brussels sprouts, but there's just something about the way that those looked. I wanted to eat it so bad. I think it's because you see the charred pieces and I could like taste that. Yep. And that was like salad, my taste buds were salivating, but also the lamb. And I'm not even a lamb eater, but I wanted to eat that lamb. And I really, really, really wanted to try it. There's so many other dishes. I'm a huge scallop girl, so give me scallop any day. So I could eat anything that they put out and I'd be so happy. All right. What surprised you the most this season?
Lots of stuff, but I still think that Carmy didn't go back. Like we don't. I guess now that we've talked about it, I guess we don't know for sure. But if he didn't go back, then that's going to be my surprise because I felt like he came to that discovery that he needed to go back at least to cook, just cook, not the rest of it.
Yeah. Well, mine is sort of related because mine is I was so surprised that he said he really didn't want to do it anymore, that he actually admitted like this isn't what I want to do and I'm not in love with it anymore. I thought, what? Again, it was that personal thing for me, like saying something you loved, all this time. And then all of a sudden, like, it was just hard for me to see him do that. And you're right. Not like I thought you're going to come back and do this, but then it's kind of ambiguous. So I'm thinking he still could do it. What moment actually stuck with you after it ended?
The surprise party for Eva. I think that was so cool because then we got to see, quick glimpses of a lot of the family and things, this and that. And I just felt like that was just such a neat moment and kind of tied this whole thing together because family is, it's based on family, and so I really like that.
Yeah. Wait, side note. At that birthday party, Claire was there. Did you see that?
I did see that and I didn't say that, but yes, I did see it.
Yeah. So that's another thing for Carmy, right? So he must have they must have talked and then she came to the party. I loved at the party how they showed everybody their face, like whether we saw them through, didn't see them this season, but they came back. And I loved seeing where everybody was at. Wait, did I answer? What moment stuck with me after it ended? Carmy's monologue. That is just stuck in my brain. I think because it was so emotional. Yeah. Okay. If you had to pick one word for the season, what would it be?
I'm going to use two. Chef's kiss.
Oh, so good. So good. Oh, that is like perfect. I should have said mine first and let you end. Yours is way better than mine. It's not better than mine. It's just perfect. Yours is perfect. I am going to say something I've said a couple times here, but it's family. Because family is so important to me personally. And the fact that Luca said that this is what they were and the way that they've all treated each other and the way they all feel and the way Carmy is talking about it, it's family. So this show, this group of people, the reason that we tune in to watch is because they are family. All right. Well, we are circling back to our question of the day, and that is, could you survive one shift at the Bear? Yes, no, and why?
Well, I've previously worked in food service. I've owned a cafe before, so I've worked in it a lot, but nothing as fast-paced or stressed as this. But I feel like I'd be like that guy with the napkins. That would be me. I'd be in there trying to chef. I'm like, "Okay, I'm chefing here." And then all the real chefs are like, "Get this kid out of here." So, yeah, that'd be me.
That's so funny. Okay, this is hard because um that's a lot of stress. And I've seen kitchens where they're like yelling at you. And I would be like, my mental health is suffering. I'm out of here. Goodbye. But I do love to cook. I would want to do something that's easy in the background. You're right. Like just do, so I don't even know what job I would do, but could I survive one shift? I think I could survive one. I don't think I could survive ongoing. So that's my answer.
Good answer.
One, yes. Ongoing, no. All right, friends out there, what about you? Could you survive one shift at the Bear? Yes, no, or why? Please leave us an answer wherever you're listening or watching us. You can also go to social media and leave it for us there. You can get there by going to screensinfocus.com. All of our social media is there, and click on it and leave us a message wherever it's most convenient for you. You can even call us and leave us a voicemail, and you can get to us by calling 669-223-8542. That number is also in the show notes because we would love to know. Oh my gosh. Is there any last minute things about the Bear, or are you?
Think I've talked out on that maybe.
I'm going to miss this kitchen. I am going to miss it so bad. I think that these 5 seasons, even though some may be a little bit slower than the others, have been so good. I think it knew when to end the series. It left it on a high note. It left it slightly ambiguous, but then so much growth, so much emotion, so much laughter. I love the Bear. All right. We have some TV and movie recommendations for you. And Renee, I would love to know what your recommendations are.
Well, I'm watching House of the Dragon right now, but I think I'm going to start. I'm at 3 episodes in or whatever it is. I just feel like I wasn't paying enough attention. Like I'm like, I'm not sure. So I want to start over, but I know I like it. I'm just going to recommend it because it's always good. So I don't know what's going on, but I know it's good. So I'll
Yeah.
go back and then, And then I love period dramas and things like that. And so I watched The Other Bennett Sisters. So this is if you watch Pride and Prejudice and stuff, it's the sister that just she's kind of like off in the background. She's the wallflower and this and that. But this is like her story focused on her, and it's so great. And I love, don't spoil anything, but I just love that they didn't really change her. They let her be who she is and just made her story around that. And I really enjoyed it. And I wasn't sure because sometimes these spin-offs aren't as, these like one-off stories aren't very good, but this was great.
What's that on? Is it on BritBox or something?
Like, I think it's BritBox. Yeah, I think is what, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
I don't get BritBox.
Yeah.
I've heard from so many people, this show is good. So
yeah,
you're in the same boat with a lot of people. So I know it must be so good.
Yeah. And it's fun because you see little bits of like their mother and the other girls and stuff, but they're not the focus like they normally are.
Yeah.
They're normally the focus, but that's not, so it's just really fun to see. So I recommend that. And then movies, we just watched Lee Cronin's The Mummy last night. And it is creepy good.
Good? Okay. I
Yeah,
almost watched it on Saturday night and I didn't because I didn't know. So
it's very creepy. I didn't know really what to expect, but it was unexpected. And I enjoyed it. And sometimes when they're just kind of too weird or something, I won't be interested. But this kept my interest. I was like, okay, what is going to happen next? What is happening right now?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was very well done. So I recommend that one if
Good
you're a
to
horror
know.
person. And I watched Voicemails for Isabel on Netflix, and that was such a cute little rom-com. Oh my gosh, I just thought it was just so well done. And a different, a lot of times it's the same. You kind of see this coming, that coming, whatever. But it was just a little different. And
Yeah.
I just like that it kept some originality, Yeah, so that was good. And then this one's a little bit old. It came out in, I don't remember what month it came out in, but Remarkably Bright Creatures.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, what a wonderful
Yeah.
movie. I
It
love
was a
that so
nice
much.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I think my mom watched it like 3 times right when it came out. She just liked it so much. And then I took my grandkids to see Toy Story 5, and it was so much fun.
I want to
So
see that
I
so bad.
Yeah, I didn't see the 4th one, but I mean, that didn't matter to this story, but, there were some things I had to ask my grandkids about, but it didn't affect it really. But it was just really well done, and it kind of centers around, like, people and their obsession with their screen time, and kind of focused on that. And then
Yes.
so I thought it was
Yes.
a real, really good, interesting take on a children's, movie, or, to show that and focus
Yeah.
on that. So I thought it was so good.
I love that. I cannot wait to watch Toy Story 5. Cannot wait. I am watching Voicemails for Isabel. I think I only have 10 minutes, and it's a long story, but I couldn't finish the last 10 minutes, but I love it. Like, I would watch it again. I'd highly recommend it. It is a great rom-com. Great. It's good. It's very good. And of course, I am watching House of the Dragon. I am podcasting on House of the
Yes.
Dragon. I love House of the Dragon. It is so good. So I love that recommendation. Now, I just saw Dutton Ranch finale. I watched the whole season. It's been so good. And the finale was, I didn't realize it was the finale. I'm like, this is so good. I can't wait for next week. And then it said finale. I'm like, God darn it. Got to wait a whole nother whatever it is. Highly recommend Dutton Ranch. It's so good. For movies, I have Letters from Isabel on my list too. But I also watched, this is a little older, it's The Amateur, it has Rami Malek in it. And I had been wanting to watch this, and I knew it was supposed to be a pretty good movie. I watched it. It's a good movie. So if you're just looking for a solid, good movie, check that out. More drama, thriller, mystery, where Letters to Isabel is more heartfelt and comedy and drama. So there's a lot there to watch. We have some good recommendations. Renee, as always, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm glad you asked me to cover this one, because being the end, it was pretty special.
Oh, I know it was pretty special. And I loved your insight into everything, your feelings. I love bouncing what I think against what you think, and you giving me your perspective. So I appreciate you for that. And I do want to say we are going to be covering The Lost Boys. So look for that this summer. We'll be doing that soon because we both love that movie. Anyway, thank you again. Friends out there, thank you for joining us. We hope we gave you a chuckle, some insight, something to think about. Remember to follow Screens in Focus and share this podcast with a friend. We would love that. Keep watching, keep exploring, and keep those screens in focus. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.